What's going on, guys? Today I wanted to bring you another one of my 2014 WCQ H.A.T format deck profiles. The deck I wanted to show off today is Hero Hands, or some people will even call it Hands of Justice. Pretty much, this is just the H.A.T version of Hero Beat or Gemini Beat. It's probably the most viable version of Hero in H.A.T format, and Heroes are kind of in a weird position because we haven't quite got the Hero structure deck in H.A.T format. Unfortunately, it came out after the format was already over, so we didn't have access to things like Shadow Mist and Dark Law, and for that reason, the whole masked hero stuff that we did have wasn't really any good. And the other thing is we also had Stratos banned in H.A.T format, which made this deck a little less consistent, but it's still a pretty cool deck, and it's a ton of fun to play, and I know people love heroes, so I am very excited to get into this deck. So without further ado, let's get started with it. So starting off, we play 3 copies of Elemental Hero Neos Alias. The main thing you have to note with this is a 1900 beater. It's a light, and it's a Gemini monster. It does have, obviously being a Gemini monster, it has the ability to additional normal summon itself, or I guess I shouldn't say additional because it will be a normal summon, so you can't do it the same turn it is normal summoned, and the effect doesn't really come up turning itself to regular Neos. So again, the main thing is just it is a Gemini hero. After that, we play 2 copies of Elemental Hero Bubbleman. This one, if it's the only card in your hand, you're able to special summon itself, so it's a way to have an extender. It's also a water monster, which is relevant when we get into the fusion monsters in the extra deck. And it also has the ability, if you have no other cards on field or in hand, and you just have this, when you do special summon it, you would get the ability to draw 2 cards. That effect almost never comes up. I guess they technically could come up if you're both you and your opponent in like a crazy top deck war. It's a way to get advantage, but for the most part, again, it never really comes up. The only relevant part is it is a hero, which is important because those are actually the only 5 hero monsters we play in the main deck, but also just having the ability to special summon itself is nice. After that, for the hands, obviously we don't have that many normal summons, so we are playing 3 copies of Fire Hand and 3 copies of Ice Hand. Obviously, they both have effects when destroyed by opponent's card or by battle, so, very easy to trigger, and when they're destroyed and sent to the graveyard, Fire Hand will pop a monster your opponent controls and special summon an Ice Hand from deck, and Ice Hand, when it's destroyed by battle or card effect from the opponent and sent to the graveyard, you're able to pop a spell or trap they control and summon a Fire Hand from deck. So just a good way to board break your opponent, as well as the fire attribute and especially the water attribute are very relevant. So that's the hand aspect. After that, there's only 2 more monsters in the deck, and that's going to be Photon Thrasher, which basically it's a free special summon if you control no other monsters, but it can't attack while you have other monsters. The reason we play this is, 1, because it's a light monster. The other thing is it's a warrior and an extender. So basically, if you have something like a Rhoda, there are, several different searcher type cards for the hero stuff. So if you have a Rhoda plus one of those, it can be good to make a free Xyz monster, as well as giving you just another target of something you can search off of your Rhoda, as I mentioned before. It also comes up when we get to one of the other spell cards. I'll talk a little more about this, but it has another cool thing that you can do with it. And the last monster is 1 copy of Thunder King Ryo, basically making so neither player can add cards from their deck to their hand except from drawing it. It's a light monster, it's a 1900, and it also has the ability that if your opponent special summons, keep in mind inherent special summons a monster, you're able to tribute it and negate the summon and destroy it. So very good card standalone on its own. Again, being light is relevant for the fusions. I've considered playing some other monsters in this deck, for example, Card Cardi, E. Since this deck needs to kind of 1-for-1 your opponent in a lot of cases, or, you know, even in some cases sort of 2-for-1, it'll make sense as we move forward. Card D is just a way to get a lot of extra card advantage in a deck like this, so I have considered that. For the spells, we play 3 copies of E Emergency Call, being able to basically just search any hero monster, obviously being either Bubble Man or Alias. With the Bubble Man, it can be kind of cool if you have 2 of these, because you can set one and then activate one, add a Bubble Man, summon it, and then activate the other and special summon the Bubble Man and make a rank 4 if need be. Also, just getting easy access to your Alias is very good. After that, 3 copies of Miracle Fusion. It allows you to fusion summon a hero monster using hero monsters, or I guess I should say, or using the material needed from either your field or graveyard. You banish them and then summon the hero from your extra deck. So really good card. That's also what's nice about this is, even though we're only playing 5 hero monsters in the main, once we start getting into our hero fusions, we can use those in graveyard as fusions for this. So that's really nice. After that, we play only 2 copies of Gemini Spark. This one says, tribute 1 face-up level 4 Gemini monster you control, target a card your opponent controls, destroy it, and draw a card. The reason I'm only playing 2 is because a lot of times, again, you only have 3 targets for this, being your 3 Alias, so you don't want a card that's always dead. Yes, you can always search your Alias, but at the same time, if, you know, we decide that we want to summon a fire or ice hand, that means we probably won't have access to Alias, so this again becomes more of a dead card unless you're specifically going for your Alias line. What is nice, and what I wanted to bring back up with the Thrasher, is if you have Thrasher and Alias and a Gemini Spark, a lot of times what you can do is special this, normal summon the Alias, attack with Alias. After you attack with Alias, you can Gemini Spark, get rid of the Alias, pop an opponent's card, draw a card, and now you have no monsters, so you can swing in with this. So that's really nice. Also, I guess I should say this deck plays Skill Drain, so under Skill Drain, you know, this is just a 2100 beater as well. But that's a cool interaction with it, and this is a way to kind of, you know, 2-for-1 your opponent. So really good card. Again, I would only suggest playing 2, though, just because of the amount of Geminis you have. After that, 2 copies of Duality. This is a card I'd almost consider bumping to 3, but I wanted to keep this deck at 40 cards. The other thing is this can conflict with the hands since they have the ability to special summon. It also conflicts with the Thrasher and the Miracle Fusions, but sometimes just being able to resolve this is really strong. So again, similar to Card D, I would almost consider, you know, either playing the Card Ds, and if I were to play Card Ds, I might consider bumping that to 3 just to have some better plays when I do choose to normal summon. We play 1 Rhoda, just a way to get into your monsters even faster. 1 Mind Control, because, you know, a lot of decks are on level 4s, so it helps you to make Xyz plays, and 1 copy of Dark Hole just to clear boards, because this deck needs anything that can put it ahead in tempo, so very good card. For the traps, there are a lot of them. We play 3 copies of Skill Drain. You know, the hands activate in graveyard, so we don't really care about not having monster effects, as well as, you know, obviously the Aliases are Gemini, they're considered normal monsters, so no effects really needed there, and this, so it just hurts more decks than not. I would almost want to play only 2 of this, because after you use the first one, it's kind of dead unless your opponent destroys it, so that's kind of a thing, but at the same time, you just really want to see this right away. After that, we play 3 copies of Fiendish Chain. Even with the skill drains, the thing is, this card can still be activated under skill drain, simply because it has an effect that also makes so your opponent's monster can't declare an attack, or I guess I should say the monster it's targeting can't declare an attack. So, at bare minimum, this is just a way to make sure your opponent's monsters can't beat over your stuff if, say, you have like an Alias and you need to keep your monster on board. So I have really been enjoying this even with the skill drains. Now, the thing with skill drain is, once you're negating most monsters, you're not really afraid of anything else your opponent throws at you in terms of monsters, except for hands, because again, hands activate under skill drain. So for that reason, I'm also playing 2 copies of Dimensional Prison, because this is a way to deal with opponents' hands. It also is really good against Sylvan that can, say, go Lone Fire into a Hermit Tree or something, which is just really big. This is just a way to clear that, so that's nice as well. After that, we play 1 copy of Hero Blast. This allows you to target a elemental hero normal monster in your graveyard, so Alias, and add it to your hand. And then if your opponent controls a monster with equal or less attack, which Alias has 19, you're able to destroy that monster. So just a way to kind of gain back one of your aliases and also clear an opponent's monster. We play 1 copy of Bottomless, 1 Torrential, 1 Compulse, 1 Warning, and there was 1 spot left in the deck, and it was between... basically, I wanted some form of back row removal to an extent, so I ended up going with 1 Wiretap. This card has been so good for me. I really considered, like, if I going over 40 cards in this deck, just so I could play a second copy. The other thing is, like, if I could try to change around the list a little bit besides the changes I've already mentioned, I might want to either add another Wiretap or swap this Wiretap and just add an extra copy of a card being MST, just so I have some more removal type stuff. But honestly, this has been working really good for me, but I would like some more back row removal in general. But that is it for the main deck. For the extra deck, all the fusion monsters that we play all say that they have to be fusion summoned and can't be summoned by other ways. So just keep that in mind. But we play 2 copies of Elemental Hero The Shining. This one needs an Elemental Hero and a light monster. And basically it'll gain a little bit of attack for each of your banished hero monsters. And then when it's destroyed, or I guess I should say, when it is sent from the field to the graveyard, you can target up to 2 of your banished elemental hero monsters and add those targets to your hand. So it's a way to reoccur your cards, get your aliases and bubble mans and stuff like that back, which is very good. After that, we play 2 copies of Elemental Hero Absolute Zero. This is probably one of your best fusions, simply because it gains a little bit of attack for all other water monsters you control, which is sort of irrelevant. It only works really if you have your ice hand, but the main thing is when this card is removed from the field, you destroy all monsters your opponent controls, so very strong. I guess I should also note with Shining, some people like to play 3, similar to how some people like to play 3 of this, but I genuinely have never had a situation where I've needed 3 of them, so I think 2 and 2 is the perfect amount. Next, we play 1 copy of Elemental Hero Nova Master. We play this because it needs a Elemental Hero and a Fire. So again, we're kind of just trying to go through the different attributes that come up the most. And this one, when it destroys an opponent's monster by battle and sends it to the graveyard, you draw a card. So just a really solid card if you don't have Skill Drain. Most of the time you do have Skill Drain, so you don't really worry about like its on-field effect as much as you just need it because if you have Fire hands and stuff in graveyard. Similarly, 1 copy of Elemental Hero Escudero. This one needs an Elemental Hero and a Dark monster, and then it gains a little bit of attack. Again, kind of irrelevant. It's just there because another attribute. And the last hero fusion I'm playing is 1 copy of Elemental Hero Gaia. This one needs an Earth, and while there's not really many Earths in the deck, and I guess similar to the Escudero, most of it is because of the extra deck having some Dark Xyz, that if you go into those, then this will be able to be played. And the Gaia specifically, the Earths are mostly into side decking when you play things like Max C and stuff. Then this one's able to be played, and this one, pretty much when it's fusion summon, you can have the attack of a monster your opponent controls, and then it will gain the attack. It's just another option. Also, it has 2600 defense, so under your skill drain, it's just hard to out. There are other elemental hero fusions for different attributes and stuff you could play, especially if you choose to side things like Super Poly, but those are just the most common attributes for your own deck, so that's why I choose to play these ones. The rest are just Xyz monsters, and honestly, I barely ever go into Xyz in general. Usually when I do, it's going to be this first one here, and besides that, you can kind of just play whatever you really want. The first monster is obviously Crazy Box. You play this because you're playing Skill Drain, so under Skill Drain, it's a 3000 beater. It's also a dark, so again, if you need your Escudero, it's kind of nice. The rest of the extra deck, like I said, is kind of just up to you. We play one Karen Gorgon. In case there is skill drain, again, it's just another big beater. When there's no skill drain, it's a way to protect your other back row. One copy of Black Ship. Again, if there's no skill drain, it's a way to out the opponent's hands, which this deck doesn't really want to deal with. One 101. One Excalibur, just because it's a way to beat over things that are really, really big if need be. One Exciton, one Dweller, and lastly, one Cowboy, which is an Earth, so I guess if you need to go into Gaia and you are able to summon this at some point, you have access to it. But again, the Xyz besides Crazy Box don't really come up. If you want to play more fusions, you can. But anyways, guys, that is it for this deck profile. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you did, make sure to leave a like on the video. Comment any questions or videos you want to see in the future. Share this video with your friends. Subscribe and hit the bell and all that good stuff. So anyways, guys, I will see you in the next video.